It's August 30th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's new proposal for key policy reforms. President Yoon said in his second policy briefing that he'll make sure reforms in pension, labor, education, and the medical sector will be realized, along with increasing the country's low birth rate. Specifically, national pensions, he says, will be sustainable and fair between generations. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reaffirmed Washington's commitment to achieving the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula during his visit to China this week. Eyes are on whether a summit between the leaders of the U.S. and Beijing could happen before Biden's term ends. Over in Japan, at least 3 people have been killed with nearly 100 people injured as Typhoon Shanshan battered the country on Thursday. An evacuation order has been issued to over 5 million residents nationwide. President Yoon Suk-yeol on Thursday doubled down on his determination to realize key reforms in pensions, labor, education, and the medical sector. Also included on top of the 4 is handling the low birth rate. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
President Yoon Suk-yeol expressed his resolve against resistance to actively reform the national pension scheme, medical service, education and labour sector for the future of the country. This came in his policy briefing and press conference Thursday, which focused on his so-called 4+1 reforms to fundamentally enhance South Korea's quality of life and productivity.
개혁은 필연적으로 저항을 불러옵니다. 개혁 과정은 험난한 여정이 될 것입니다. 정치적 유불리만 따진다면 하지 않는 것이 훨씬 편한 길입니다. 역대 정부가 개혁에 실패하고 개혁을 시도조차 하지 않았던 이유가 이 때문입니다. 우리 사회의 지속 가능한 발전에 반드시 필요한 구조 개혁이 지금까지 이루어지지 않은 이유가 바로 이것입니다. 저는 쉬운 길을 가지 않겠습니다.
Pension reform was the foremost agenda ahead of the government's soon-to-be-released roadmap for the national pension scheme, as South Korea's rapidly aging society faces the possible depletion of pension funds by 2055. The president called for the country's law to include the guarantee that pension payouts would be made. South Korea having the world's lowest birth rate and a declining population means fewer young people will have to support the disproportionately large number of pensioners. Previous discussions in Parliament have focused on parametric measures, such as adjusting the insurance premium rate, how much you pay, and how much of your income can be replaced by your pension payout, or the income replacement rate. However, Yoon clearly showed his administration will aim for a structural reform to the national pension scheme, mentioning an automatic adjustment system for premium rates and income replacement levels based on economic and demographic conditions. He also raised the need to set different timelines for the younger and older generation to meet the increase in premium payments, as well as enhancing benefits for military personnel and new mothers, to make up for gaps in their premium contributions. Amid the month-long protest by trainee doctors and medical professors on expanding the number of medical students, the president renewed his pledge to fundamentally strengthen the healthcare system nationwide, especially in hospitals in non-capital areas, by increasing the number of doctors and improving compensation schemes. On education, Yoon promised to deliver a public care system to ease the burden of childbearing for working parents. On labour, he further pledged efforts to create a virtuous cycle of innovative growth for firms and quality work environments for workers through labour market flexibility and fair compensation that meets global standards. And cutting across all areas, Yoon reiterated his commitment to raising the chronically low birth rate by improving the work-life balance for young South Koreans and dedicating a new ministry to handling urgent demographic issues that affect education, healthcare, employment, housing and welfare.
As he takes the road not taken to achieve the 4+1 reforms, Yoon asked for cooperation from Parliament and the public support to create a fair and sustainable future for the country. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
So the president's policy briefing on Thursday was all about key reform policies in pensions, labor, health, education, and birth rate, specifically shaking up the country's pension plan. We have Professor Ha Junyoung with us this morning. Welcome.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So why so much emphasis on reforming policies and pensions? I mean, why now?
Yeah, the national pension plan is expected to be depleted in 2046 right now. So which is like about 20 years after. So like people are worrying about the national pension plan because like old people, like they think that the national pension plan does not cover enough for their cost of living, and the younger generation, they think that it's not, reliable. I mean, can I really get this when I'm old? I mean, they have this kind of concern. So, I mean, this is like kind of right timing to start talking about the pension plan.
Well, ensuring the sustainability of the pension is one of the three principles of Yoon's pension reform plan. Now, ways to do so include raising the fund's rate of return to investment and also inking a promise to provide the pensions to all people into law. Will these help guarantee the sustainability of national pensions, though?
Yeah, I mean, the current expectation about future return of the pension is kind of very conservative. So raising this is not very unreliable. So I think that's the best solution that we can get this pension more reliably, because the current expectation or the current the calculation of the future pension plan is too much conservative. So we can raise this, and then that's the most efficient way of getting this pension in a more reliable setting. So.
Well, Yoon also vowed to make sure there's a fairness between generations, like you just mentioned. There have been heated debates saying that, like you mentioned earlier, that younger generations pay the most fees and they become the last ones to get those pension. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, there's young people, they are complaining about the pension plan. I mean, it's not fair. So fairness is kind of very important issue for the sustainability of the pension. So I mean, the president tries to, I think, pursue or tries to ensure that the pension plan is sustainable and the pension plan is fair in terms of the younger people. They just pay the most of the pension plan right now and then for the longer period of time. So I think that's the main issue of the pension. So I mean the president tries to pursue it and in that way. So.
Well, what he actually proposed is increasing pension premiums for younger groups at different pace. Now, what do you think he means by different pace?
Yeah, so the pension plan, I mean, to get people people get this pension for covering their cost of living. So I mean, if the pension plan is sustainable, we have to raise the rate of the pension, and then the rate of the pension is right now is too low. So I mean, people pay more of the pension plan right now, and then the increasing the rate. The speed of increasing the rate is kind of different between the generations. So old people, they get pension really soon, and so their rate will be increasing very fastly. Whereas the younger people, their rate will be raising very slowly. So that's the main issue of the pension. So.
Professor Ha, let's talk about the country's low birth rate. President Yoon said people in South Korea feel like they don't have the luxury of getting married or having children. He said the low birth rate is closely linked to unnecessarily heated competition, especially here in the capital area, which underscores the need for regional balance. And he said the regional balance also comes with good education and solid medical care. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so there's a recent report by the Bank of Korea, talking about, the high house price in like Gangnam area partially comes from the education fee. So I mean his point, the president's point is something about that. So I think it's kind of very important because very much condensed around the Seoul area. In Korea. So I think one of the way we have like a better education, less competition, a more sustainable society is kind of the balance, like regional balance, I think. So that's what he emphasized yesterday. So.
All right, Professor Ha, thank you so much for making your time with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The U.S. National Security Advisor wrapped up his trip to China, where he emphasized U.S. commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. This marks the first visit to China by a U.S. National Security Advisor since 2016. Choi Min-jung reports.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reaffirmed Washington's commitment to complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula during his talks with his Chinese counterparts in Beijing. The remarks were made at a press conference on Thursday as Sullivan wrapped up his three-day visit to China. It also came amid concerns over the lack of reference to denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula from both U.S. Democratic and Republican parties at the recent national conventions. Sullivan also stressed the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and that Washington's One China policy has not changed. High-level talks were held between the two countries to seek stability in their relations. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Sullivan on Thursday and expressed hope that the U.S. would work with China to get along.
Although great changes have taken place in the respective conditions of the two countries and in China-US relations, China's commitment to the stable, sound and sustainable development of China-US relations remains unchanged.
Sullivan told Xi that U.S. President Joe Biden was committed to managing Washington-Beijing ties to avoid conflict. The effort comes ahead of the upcoming U.S. presidential election.
We are committed to maintaining high-level diplomacy, and to this end, President Biden looks forward to engaging with you again in the coming weeks.
The U.S. official hinted that Biden and Xi plan to speak over the phone in the coming weeks and possibly meet in person at APEC and the G20 summits slated for November. Sullivan arrived in Beijing on Tuesday on a three-day visit, marking the first trip by a U.S. National Security Advisor in 8 years. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Millions of people have been evacuated in Japan as the massive Typhoon Shanshan made landfall in the country on Thursday. The 10th typhoon of the season has killed at least 3 people. Lee Seung-jae has more.
In what's being dubbed one of the strongest typhoons to hit the country, Typhoon Shanshan made landfall in Japan on Thursday, causing massive damage and the evacuation of millions of residents across the southern part of the country. A special warning was issued by the Japan Meteorological Agency on Wednesday before the typhoon made landfall, marking the first time such a warning was issued in 2 years. A special warning is issued when there's significant risk from a major disaster. The strong winds and torrential rain also knocked out power in many regions, while halting air traffic and closing major automobile factories run by Toyota, Nissan, and Honda. The typhoon has also taken the lives of at least 3 people and injured dozens more. 2.25 million residents have also been evacuated to further mitigate casualties. The Japanese Weather Agency said the typhoon brought winds with speeds of up to 180 kilometers per hour, strong enough to blow over a truck. The typhoon is expected to bring up to 400 millimeters of rain in a 24-hour period from Thursday in some regions. The weather agency expects accumulated rainfall to be significantly higher, as the slow-moving storm is forecast to continue to wreak havoc throughout the weekend. With this, an evacuation order has been issued to over 5 million residents nationwide. Typhoon Shanshan follows Typhoon Ampil, which made landfall in Japan earlier this month and left 5,000 homes without power. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Israel and Hamas have agreed to temporarily suspend some military operations in Gaza so that polio vaccines can be administered safely. According to the WHO, the pause in fighting in central Gaza will take place for 3 days, starting on September 1st between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. to vaccinate 650,000 children under the age of 10. After that, temporary pauses in fighting will take place in southern and northern Gaza for 3 days each to administer the vaccines. The health organization added that the two sides agreed to extend the pause to 4 days if necessary. 1.26 million doses of polio vaccines have already arrived in Gaza, with a second dose needed 4 weeks after the first. On the culture front, a unique musical journey is taking place here in Korea, where an audience can enjoy music from all around the world. Our Yoon met with artists performing cross-cultural music.
Noder Island in Seoul's Yongsan-gu district is the place to be for anyone looking to take a global musical journey. Co-hosted by the Korea Foundation and the Embassy of Colombia in Korea, the 2024 Public Diplomacy Rhapsody, VOYAGE, held on August 28th and 29th, brings together artists and music from all around the world.
If you're interested in cross-cultural sounds, you won't want to miss this two-day event. With artists from Colombia, Morocco, Egypt, Pakistan, and South Korea, the concert provides a unique opportunity to enjoy diverse musical traditions.
Tal is an experimental music group that reinvents Pakistan's Qawwali, a form of Islamic devotional singing rooted in Sufi traditions, by blending it with Korean folk music.
We wanted to give the audience a sense of traveling, even though we're here at Noder Island in Seoul. By listening to their music, we hope the audience will explore new cultures.
His voice was really nice.
Yes, it's a voice that kind of gives you joy and makes you hype.
Yeah, and we tried to dance a little bit.
Next up, the journey heads to Africa. Dressed in traditional Moroccan attire, the band Omar and Eastern Power features members from South Korea, Morocco, and Egypt.
Our band has a distinctive sound that we believe is truly unique, and this is a major source of our strength. The blend of different cultural backgrounds within our group comes across in our music, giving us a powerful edge.
Salsa Groove, with their adventurous Colombian sounds, blends Cuban, Latin American, and classic salsa with electronic elements.
Our music preserves the spirit and roots of traditional styles, while also conveying a message of innovation and change.
For the audience, it's a chance to connect with and appreciate each other's cultures.
And she told me there's this festival where there's gonna be a Colombian. Do you want to go with me? And I said yes, because at the end it's even if the country is different, I'm able to get a connection with Latin roots and everything.
While I listen to a lot of mainstream music, it's not easy to find these kinds of unique sounds elsewhere. It's a pleasure to discover new music and engage with so many cultures.
VOYAGE shows that despite varying melodies, rhythms, and musical roots, music can transcend borders. Yoon, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Walter Lee, and this is The World Now. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Paris on Thursday local time, marking Starmer's first visit to France since taking office. The leader's agenda includes talks on the conflict in the Ukraine, tensions in the Middle East, the UK's relations with Europe, and French-British bilateral ties. This visit follows Starmer's trip to Berlin on Wednesday, where he met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and agreed on a treaty focused on the defence and trade, signalling a reset of the UK's relations with the EU after the 2020's Brexit. Starmer, who took office last month, has made improving ties with Europe a key part of his strategy to revive Britain's economy. In Paris, he also attended the Paralympic opening ceremony and is set to meet with the business executives. Now to Thailand, where the son of Spanish actor Rodolfo Sancho was jailed on Thursday for the gruesome murder of a Colombian man last year on the island of Koh Phangan. Daniel Sancho was convicted of premeditated murder and concealing the body of plastic surgeon Edwin Arrieta Arteaga in August 2023. However, Sancho denied the murder was premeditated and said that it was an act of self-defense. Sancho, who was on holiday at the time of the incident, dismembered the victim's body and distributed the body parts around the island. The Thai court originally sentenced Sancho to death, but that was reduced to life imprisonment as he cooperated with authorities. Sancho was also ordered to pay the family of the victim a sum equal to around $130,000 in compensation. Swedish pop group ABBA have asked former US President Donald Trump to stop using their music and videos for his campaign rallies for the upcoming 2024 presidential election. The songs The Winner Takes It All, Money, 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 and Dancing Queen were used at a rally in Minnesota on July 27th. The band's label said that no permission or license had been given to the Trump campaign and that it asked for the immediate removal from further use on the campaign. ABBA aren't the first artists to deny Trump use of their songs. Artists including band REM and singers Tom Petty and Adele have denied Trump rights to their songs. In Monaco, on Thursday local time, footballers Cristiano Ronaldo and Gianluigi Buffon received awards at the UEFA Champions League 2024-25 draw ceremony. The Portuguese captain Ronaldo was awarded for being the all-time Champions League top goalscorer. He scored 140 goals during his time with teams such as Manchester United, Real Madrid and Juventus. Gianluigi Buffon received the President's Award, an award that recognises the goalkeeper's legendary career.
Good morning. Due to the indirect effect of Typhoon Shanshan that made landfall in southern Japan, parts of the East and South Seas continue to be under rough weather with high seas advisories. And easterly winds are bringing rough winds to the eastern regions, with strong wind advisory remains in place for Ulleungdo, Dokdo and Busan and nearby areas. Along with the wind, there will be 5 to 30 millimeters of rainfall in East Coast regions throughout the day today. Now, the wind and rain will keep the East Coast regions bearable in the mid-20s, but midsummer level heat continues in the west, with Seoul and Gwangju expected to see a high of 34 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And Daejeon also sees a high of 34 degrees under sunny skies in the central regions. Jeju Island gets up to 31 degrees this afternoon. The first week of September looks more promising, with daily lows forecast to go down even further. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That wraps up our Friday's edition of New Day at Arirang. Thanks for watching.